I'm going to transition. I'm going to click here, Control L. All right, so today is September 24th, and we are still working on comparing viruses to cells. Specifically, we're focusing on bacteria on this one. Remember that there's two major types of cells. You've got your eukaryotes, and of course I have a picture over here of a plant cell and an animal cell. And then there's prokaryotes, which is bacteria, okay? No nucleus. You do have a nucleus, so plants and animal cells have a nucleus, okay? But we're going to focus on comparing viruses to cells or to bacteria. And bacteria, remember, no nucleus. Okay, so we are just still looking at the virus. And remember, viruses are not considered to be alive. But they do have some characteristics of living things, okay? So, one of them is that they can reproduce. Living things can reproduce. Viruses can reproduce. Living things or cells can reproduce on their own, okay? Viruses can't reproduce on their own. They're parasites. They have to attach to a living cell in order to reproduce, okay? Viruses can mutate or change. Cells can mutate or change. Mutate or change, what does that mean? Okay? What that means is that they have a form of DNA or RNA. Okay? And that DNA or RNA can change. Have y'all heard about, okay, so the flu virus, it can change. Okay? The flu virus can mutate and change just a little bit. Meaning, okay, that there's a little change in some of these DNA bases here, okay? This is called the genome. Genome is going to be an important word for you guys because it comes up in your lesson. A genome is the genetic makeup. Genome means genetic makeup. We're all made up of genes. We get genes from our parents that makes us who we are, how we look, and all kinds of things, okay? So a genome is the genetic makeup of something. So viruses can, and that genome can mutate, okay? But they have DNA or RNA, like we just said. Their genome may consist of only 4 genes. So, they may only have a small section of this DNA or RNA that make them up, okay? Or they can have a lot of this, or a little bit of this, okay? But anyway, viruses have some type of DNA or RNA, and they can mutate or change. And the only way they can reproduce is if they attach to a living cell and use that cell to reproduce. Okay, now let's go to what is non-living about a virus. Okay, first of all, they are not cellular. Viruses are not made up of living parts, okay? So they don't have a nucleus. They don't have a Golgi apparatus. They don't have cell parts. They have no metabolism, meaning they do not need water. They do not need food. They do not need nutrients. They do not do things that living things do. They can be crystallized and dehydrated and stored indefinitely. Okay, so if you were to take, like there's these labs, and this happened in the Wuhan lab. If y'all know what the Wuhan lab is, what is that? Does anybody know? The COVID-19 virus that we're dealing with right now supposedly escaped from the Wuhan lab, virology lab, okay? Anyway, they can take those viruses and store them indefinitely. If you take a cell and try to store it, if it doesn't get food, water, and all of its energy requirements, it's going to die. Viruses, you can just crystallize them and store them. Okay? And then, of course, they can be brought out and studied and tested and looked at and escaped from labs. Okay? All right, so anyway, those are the living and non-living things about a virus. Okay? The next thing we're going to look at is you're going to answer questions on when does a viral infection begin. That's our focus. What does the viral genome, the genetic makeup, do to the host cell? And what is the final result of the virus taking over the cell? So the next couple of slides are very, there's a lot written there, but I want to narrow it down to those 3 questions. So let's see if we can answer those questions. Okay, so since viruses have no enzymes and no cell parts, they force the host cell to start making viral parts. A viral infection begins when? That's our question. When does a viral infection begin? The genetic material, DNA or RNA of a virus, makes its way into the host cell. So that's your answer. When does it begin? Okay? All right. Once inside the virus, it hijacks the cell. It takes it over and it reprograms it into making viruses, okay? Instead of making cells. All right. The viral genome takes over the host cell and makes the host cell start producing viral parts. So, what happens? What does the viral genome do to the host cell? It takes it over and has it start producing viral parts. So there's your answer to number 2. Okay? All right. The host cell will begin to make copies of the viral DNA and produce protein capsids. What's a protein capsid? It's that protein coat that surrounds the virus, okay? And it's those little extensions too. That's part of it, the projections that help attach to the cell. Okay, the host cell assembles the parts into viruses. The reproductive cycle ends with the exit of hundreds of thousands of viruses from the infected cell, and it often destroys the cell. So, what's the answer to number 3? What is the final result of the virus taking over the cell? Well, it ends up making thousands of viruses and it destroys the host cell. There's your answer. Okay? So, that is it for today. Now, I was kind of thinking about this, if y'all have your phone and you want to, you can take a picture of the instructions, set it there, and so then you only have to flip back and forth from your PowerPoint to your slides that you're making. And somebody's already figured out how to do that. That's awesome. Okay, so work smarter, not harder, if you possibly can. All right, I'm going to let you go for the day. Good luck. Let me know if you need any help. Email me, text me, call me, make arrangements to come see me. And y'all have a great day.